Hey, what up, world? Man, I don't know if it's just me or you guys, but the NBA has been pretty dead for the last 2 to 3 weeks, especially when the Super Bowl was going around and kind of going in with it now. Really, no trade rumors, really nothing going on with trades besides Derrick Rose, and feels like we're just kind of going along the course, but I expect more things to pick up within the next week or two as the trade deadline is going to be approaching and NBA All Star quote unquote rosters will be coming out. But besides from that, I like to do at the end of every week, kind of jump into the NBA standings, kind of give a recap of what we covered within the whole week and what's been going on in the NBA world. Well, we do know Carmelo Anthony's been more of a veteran leader for the Portland Trailblazers, and they're in good positioning as of right now. Who else? The Utah Jazz are one of the main teams, one of the best record in the NBA, so kudos to them. I was wrong about them. Having my predictions beginning the season, I expected them to fall to a ninth seed. I really thought that they needed to add another scoring wing with Donovan Mitchell, and I thought the workload would have been too much, but they're a great defensive team. Donovan Mitchell has always been an impact player that can generate wins. No shade, but definitely not like a Bradley Beal type. I've always been high on Donovan Mitchell, and he's going to be one of the best players in NBA history, but he'll take it step by step. They need to add another scoring wing with the Utah Jazz, preferably. I mean, Gordon Hayward would have been great bringing back. Besides from him, you want to go a young direction, but let me not divert too much away. What else was going on in the NBA world? Not too much, but I'm gonna cover each of these teams in their standings and kind of some things will pop up to my head. So starting off, I always start off with the East. Let me start with the West. All right, so with the West, with Utah Jazz, a 22-5 record, took down the Milwaukee Bucks. The Boston Celtics, which was a great game. Donovan Mitchell hitting daggers left and right. He needs to be top five in MVP in the MVP discussion. You still have the main guys: Joel Embiid, LeBron, Nikola Jokic, Kevin Durant, and then Donovan Mitchell probably needs to be that number fifth in there. But I doubt Donovan Mitchell is going to start in the All-Star game, but he'll be one of the main guys coming off the bench to be a reserve. But with the Jazz, I don't expect them to finish with the number one seed at the end of the season. I fully expect the LA Lakers to take that on, and the Lakers are in a great position. They're 21-6, one game behind the Jazz. The Lakers really need to bring in another big out there, an interior defensive anchor. I got to look back into the rules. I don't know if they can bring back JaVale McGee in the near future within the season or later on, but I believe they can do so in a couple more. I think in like 30, 60 more days, legally they can, but as of right now, I'm not too sure about that. I may be wrong, but if anything, they need to go for JaVale McGee. Now, the team that really needs JaVale McGee is the Brooklyn Nets, but if you're the Lakers, if you can bring back McGee, that'd be huge for them because him and Anthony Davis were one of the best, if not the best, defensive anchors out there in a front court setting. Besides from that, the Lakers are good. Who else? The LA Clippers. I mean, the Clippers are fine. They are still needing a floor general. I believe they need to go for a trade for Terry Rozier ASAP because they allegedly they were trying to go for Derrick Rose. There was thoughts about it, but it never went down with. And I was shocked that Derrick Rose went to the Knicks instead of a trading for the LA Clippers. So if you're the Clippers right now, you missed out on a veteran point guard. So if there's no Derrick Rose, Terry Rozier would be ideal. If not him, go for George Hill. But they really need to fill that out. The Clippers, I mean, I expect the Clippers and Lakers to match up in the conference finals. The Clippers, I mean, they're okay. I mean, the good thing about them is they've been very low-key this season, very stealthy, staying one of the top teams in the West without any really media coverage or anyone hyping them up since they folded last season in the second round. But, I mean, the Clippers are doing their thing. I expected the Lakers and Clippers to be top one and top two seeds, so they're fine where they're at. The Phoenix Suns, they've been picking it up. I mean, beginning of the season, they were 5-2 with the third seed, and then they dropped off to like an 8 seed. Now they're back to a 4 seed with a 16-9 record. Devin Booker had an electric game, and he's been picking up. He had a game winner against the Mavericks. The Suns are a formidable team. They'll be nice in the playoffs. They do have a traditional point guard in Chris Paul and a traditional center in DeAndre Ayton, and also a traditional shooting guard in Devin Booker. So they're more of a traditional team. I like their makeup. Monty Williams is a great coach. Of course, I expected them to probably be around the 6 or 8 seed beginning of the season, but it's looking like as of right now, top 4 to top 6. That's probably a better range for them. But I don't know. We'll see. They've been kind of here or there, but who knows about that. The Portland Trailblazers 15-10 record. There's been, of course, they've had those injuries with CJ McCollum, Nurkic, Zach Collins, so they've been making do. Damian Lillard, of course, has taken on the responsibilities of scoring more, and he's fine with that. He's fine with it. So the Blazers, I said in the preseason, I thought they would finish around the top 5 to top 7. So they're in that right mix where they're at. Now the team I'm somewhat surprised is the San Antonio Spurs. Even though they do have a 16-11 record, 6th in the Western Conference, they still should have blown it up. They should have let go of LaMarcus Aldridge, DeRozan, Patty Mills, their other vets, Rudy Gay, but I don't know. They're trying to stay competitive. It really doesn't make any sense. Even though if they do make the playoffs, I still don't expect them to. But if they do, I mean, what's the reason? You're going to lose in the first round anyways to the Lakers or Clippers. So I don't know. They're trying to stay competitive. I think their momentum of their timeline is done with. So it makes zero sense anyways. LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan are going to leave in free agency anyways. So I think the trade deadline, you need to trade them off, man. You got to get them out of there. Stack up some first-round picks. Get some young guys, cap flexibility. And I know Popovich wants to stay, but, I mean, he needs to retire. He needs to leave. They need to go a new direction with the Spurs, but it's whatever, man. But no, I definitely expect the Spurs to drop off later in the season. I expect the Mavericks to pick it up. And the only team that looks like they may or may not make the playoffs, they'll be in that little bubble situation, going to be the Golden State Warriors. You're asking too much of Steph Curry, even though he can give you 30 points in 3 quarters. There's not another true threat offensive player with the Golden State Warriors. Wiggins is inconsistent. He's more of a mid-range game. And Kelly Oubre, he's not a three-point shooter. He's more of a mid-range game as well. More of a slasher. Draymond Green, of course, doesn't take on that offensive responsibilities. And James Wiseman is a post. So, I don't know. Expect the Warriors. Maybe they make a mid-season trade. There's really not a lot of players out there in the market that can fit the role of what I'm talking about. So, I think listen, the preseason, I said they would finish with around a 9th or 10th seed. They can go for that 8th seed, but it's going to be tough. I don't know. We'll see. 8th through 10th, somewhere in that mix. They may play in that bubble little tournament if they're still doing that play-on tournament. But it'll probably be the Spurs against the Warriors. I expect the Mavericks to finish in the playoffs easily. They'll get their act back together, which they have been, with a 13-14 record. But they've been picking up with more wins. Let's see who else. The Nuggets, they've dropped down a bit, a 7 seed, 14-11 record. They got to do much better than this, man. They got to do much better. That's inexcusable, man. Not a lot to say on that. I mean, listen, I've always said, the Grizzlies, Thunder, and Minnesota Timberwolves are not making the playoffs. Sacramento Kings are not. It's cute. It's cute that the Kings are 12-13, the Grizzlies are 10-11, pretty close, but they're not going to make the playoffs. I'm not going to entertain this idea. The West is so tough to get into the playoffs that if you're the Kings, you got to blow it up again. I mean, you keep De'Aaron Fox, but I don't know. I don't know what the Kings are needing to do. The Rockets, I didn't like that trade with the James Harden trade, basically for like few first-round picks, and then you flipped it for Oladipo with the Karis LeVert trade. So, I don't know. The Rockets, they messed up. That's me personally, but it's whatever for them. The Pelicans, 11-15, very disappointing. There's been trade rumors of shipping Lonzo Ball to Chicago, or there's around 10, 11 other teams interested. If you're the Pelicans, you need to keep Lonzo Ball. I don't understand this impatience of teams wanting to let go of Lonzo Ball every season or so. And Lonzo, on his part, he needs to be more aggressive. I mean, he's very nonchalant. Someone needs to snap that out of him. No, but you keep Lonzo. A 6'6" point guard? No, you keep him. And who's only, like 22? You keep him. The Timberwolves, Cat's been out a couple games. He came back, but I've always expected the Wolves that they should have blown it up with Cat and D'Lo last season. So I'm not shocked at all whatsoever. I mean, big story with the West, man. I just expect the Lakers to finish with the first seed, Clippers finish the second. Um, the Jazz will probably the Jazz will probably finish top three, top four. I don't expect them to finish with the first seed. Everything's kind of irrelevant, man. I really expect. I mean, not expect. I've been telling you guys the Lakers are winning the 2021 NBA championship, and I mean this season there's been barely any news. It's been low coverage. I'm very shocked as of right now. Quickly on the East, I don't expect Philly to finish with the first seed. I've stated this numerous amount of times. I expect the Milwaukee Bucks to finish with the first seed, as which they're more built onto. But it's pretty sad in the East, man. You can have 9 or 10 losses right now, pretty close to 500, and you're a top four seed in the East. That's embarrassing. I mean, if you look in the Western Conference, man, if you're over 500, you're around the eighth or ninth seed. But if you're over 500 in the Eastern Conference, you're around a four seed. And that's just. So that's why I've been telling you guys no one in the East is going to win the championship. Nobody. Not even the Brooklyn Nets. They're the favorite to come out of the Eastern Conference on my end, but they're not going to beat the LA Lakers. The Brooklyn Nets have too many problems. They don't have enough bigs, nor depth. And I mean, that dynamic three of James Harden, Kyrie, and KD is going to be lethal offensively, but as of right now, I got the Lakers against the Nets in the finals. Before I did have the Celtics, but that was before the James Harden trade. I fully expect the Lakers to beat the Nets in not 6 games. I actually expect that to actually go around 7 games. I think that'll be a 7-game series. Game 7, and LeBron will take them down with quote-unquote home court. But not to jump the gun. 76ers, I mean, they're nice. They finally got their first loss as their starting five together with Simmons, Curry, Green, Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris. The Milwaukee Bucks need to do a lot better. 16-10 record is not like them for the last 2 seasons. This Bucks team is not the same. They're losing on a. They've been on a bad momentum trend. They're. I don't know. Pacers 14-13. I mean, they're a nice team, middle of the pack, but they're always going to lose in the first round. Now the Celtics 13-13 record. I'm shocked with the 5th seed. I know it's still somewhat early, but I expect the Boston Celtics to finish with the 2nd seed. I've always stated that from the jump, but this is embarrassing. 13-13 record. It's not like them at all whatsoever. Kemba Walker has not been performing. I've always stated from the jump. I mean, even though they made the Eastern Conference Finals last season, but I've always stated you don't need Kemba Walker on that team. They should have kept Terry Rozier as your starting point guard and paired him up with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, go that young direction. But with Kemba Walker, people are finally realizing that they got to let him go. They need to go with the young point guard. Now, if you're the Celtics, man, I would love for them to go for Malcolm Brogdon. I mean, that would be an ideal point guard, 6'5", around 28 years of age. If you can make a trade with the Indiana Pacers, the Pacers may bite that bullet if they want to go for Kemba, scoring, quote-unquote, type all-star type player. But if you're the Celtics, man, I would love Malcolm Brogdon as your starting point guard, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and then, at your 5. If you're the Celtics, if you make that trade for Malcolm Brogdon, you should look for another trade for Steven Adams of the New Orleans Pelicans. Steven Adams would always be an ideal fit for the culture and role for the Celtics and chemistry. I've always stated that, but who knows? Maybe the Pelicans are stuck with him. But Boston still needs to make some internal changes. Danny Ainge hasn't done jack. He hasn't done squat when it comes to their roster as much. Jeff Teague, Tristan Thompson, they're nice picks, but come on, man. You're the Celtics. You're trying to go for at least come out of the East. You've lost in the conference finals the last 2 out of the 3 years. I mean, come on, man. The Charlotte Hornets, 6th seed, nice for them, but listen, you're at a 13-15 record, losing, which is not good for any team at all whatsoever. But for them, they've always been out of the playoffs, basically. You have a young team that probably wasn't expected to make the playoffs at all. So this is actually, on a positive note for them. 6th seed with LaMelo Ball finally coming off the bench and now coming into the starting unit for the last 8 games or so straight. His confidence has picked up. I like the momentum and the trend for the Hornets. It's been going up. So if they make the playoffs, that's a huge accomplishment for them, especially for LaMelo Ball and his career and legacy. The New York Knicks are back in the quote-unquote playoff picture, 13-15 record as well. You brought in Derrick Rose, who's now coming off the bench. A nice veteran pick for them. So it's nice, but do I expect the Hornets and the Knicks to finish off into the playoff race? Probably not. I fully expect the Miami Heat to get back in the playoff picture as they finally have Jimmy Butler back and they're healthy. And the Miami Heat, they're in a 9th seed right now, so they'll pick it back up. I'm disappointed into the Atlanta Hawks right now. They've been dipping this week. They were within like a 5th, or they're within a 6th seed. They dropped to an 8th. Now they're down to a 10th seed. Not a good look for the Hawks, man. I expect them to finish with an 8th seed this season, but they got to pick it up because the Hornets and the Knicks have an identity. The Atlanta Hawks have been all over the place. And this goes more on Trae Young. The Toronto Raptors 12-14. I expect them to make the playoffs, but not like this. I thought they would have finished with the 6th seed beginning of the season with my predictions, but the East has been all over the place, man. I mean, the top 4 teams have been pretty much consistent. The Celtics besides the Pacers, but everything else, 5th or 6th down to the 8th and all the way down is just a mess. The Cleveland Cavaliers have finally come back to earth. Now they're back to a 13th seed, which I expected them to drop off. The Bulls, you got to blow up the marketing and that Zach LaVine project. They're going to keep LaVine. He's going to make an all-star appearance. The Wizards are a mess with Russ, have a terrible losing record. The Wizards need to get Russ out of there, man. They're going to keep Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal doesn't want to leave. The Wizards don't want to let go of their quote-unquote star. You got to get Russ out of there, man. I don't know. I mean, all these standings are all over the place. Big picture, basically, what I see, the Lakers coming out of the West easy. And out of the East, I fully expect the Brooklyn Nets to come out. We're going to see Lakers versus Nets in the finals. It's going to be a dynamic duo, Kevin Durant versus LeBron James once again. Those are my thoughts. But yeah, we'll go from there.